In this video, we'll look at 15 actors currently behind bars. Michael Jace. Anger never solved anything, and countless lives have been ruined and futures wrecked because someone did something inexcusably bad in the heat of anger. Take Michael Jace, for instance. The man had it all, from fame and wealth to a loving family blessed with kids. He had been on some of the biggest blockbusters in the history of the film industry, from Forrest Gump to Planet of the Apes to Gridiron Gang to The Mentalist, and was a regular on The Shield, where he played the part of a police officer by the name of Julian Lowe. And then, one day, an incensed Michael Jace threw away all that he had achieved and decided to take his wife's life. After being tried on second-degree murder charges, Michael Jace was found guilty and given a 40-year-to-life sentence that he is currently seeing through at Corcoran State Prison. Be sure to stick to the end to see the female actor languishing behind bars for sending poison-laced letters to President Obama and Mayor Michael Bloomberg. If you thought that was a crazy story, wait till you hear this next one. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you do not miss out on more amazing videos. Allison Mack. Allison Mack had always been a cutie, and we're sorry to learn of the path that she has lately been treading. Born in West Germany to American parents, her first showbiz job involved commercials. October 2001 saw her given her biggest break and most iconic role in Smallville as Chloe Sullivan, the cheeky, pretty, and yes, extremely cute small-town reporter who happened to be best friends with Superman. Once Smallville stuttered to a close in 2011, Chloe Sullivan struggled to remain relevant in the film industry and landed a few TV show roles. She might have made it to the top once again, but her ignorable role as a NXIVM deputy leader had scuppered all chances of that. Advertised as a group focused on human potential development and the building of a better world, NXIVM was actually an extremely depraved personality cult, and its founder is currently serving a 120-year prison stretch. Allison Mack joined the group in 2006 and speedily rose to the top. She was involved in all sorts of unethical practices. In April 2018, the FBI hauled her in on sex trafficking and forced labor charges. Facing a 15-to-life sentence, Allison Mack decided to bare her soul and enter a plea bargain deal. In June 2021, she was given a 3-year sentence and still faces lawsuits from former members of the cult that she helped operate and once spoke very highly of. Danny Masterson. That 70s show and The Ranch couldn't have been as great as they were if Danny Masterson hadn't been in them to grin and thrill viewers. This New York native made most of his early money by appearing in commercials, and by his mid-teens had been in over 100 of these. He was totally under the radar as an adult, till his performance in that 70s show forced people to sit up and take notice. Danny was able to leverage his fame to get steady work, and life seemed to be working out for him. And then, in March 2017, a trio of ladies filed suit against him, alleging that he had assaulted them just like the star actor of the show 19 Kids and Counting, coming up later in this video. Danny quickly fired off a denial, but Netflix wasted no time dropping him from the ranch. As of June 2020, Danny Masterson has been charged with the assault of 3 women, and he faces a maximum of 45 years in the slammer. He has pled not guilty, and his criminal trial will begin on August 29, 2022. Amy Locane. Poor Amy Locane. What is currently happening to her is tragic. But she is also to be blamed for making the fateful decision to get behind the wheel of an automobile while drunk. Amy Locane is not a household name, but many know her from Melrose Place. She was in School Ties opposite Matt Damon and Brendan Fraser. Anyway, in June 2010, Amy Locane was involved in a car crash in New Jersey that resulted in a woman dying. The actress was driving at almost twice the legal limit with a blood alcohol level that was almost thrice the allowable limit when she crashed into a man who was turning into his driveway. In December 2010, Amy Locane was charged with aggravated manslaughter and assault by automobile. In November 2012, she was found guilty of vehicular homicide and assault by auto, and the next year she was handed a 3-year sentence. This she served. Her troubles didn't end there. In July 2016, an appeals court decided that her 3-year sentence was far too light, and in February 2019, she was resentenced to 5 years. In July 2020, another appeal court ruled that the 5-year sentence was incorrect. And in September 2020, she was handed an 8-year sentence that she is currently in the process of seeing through, with parole eligibility in December 2024. Drew Drechsel. We all make a living in different ways. Some rely on their voice, others on their looks. But fellas like Drew Drechsel leverage their agility and swiftness to win legions of fans and bucket loads of money on shows like American Ninja Warrior. Drew is the season 11 champion of the top-rated NBC show and has been crushing it for years, setting records with flair and amazing critics with hearty and impressive zeal. But we're not here to marvel at the athleticism and consistently excellent performance of Drew Drechsel in American Ninja Warrior. More sober matters await, and it saddens us that Drew is not only a very friendly gym owner and extraordinary athlete, but also a depraved individual. On August 4th, 2020, the FBI showed up and arrested him on sex crime. In less than 24 hours, NBC scrubbed him from their website and all American Ninja Warrior reruns. Drew Drechsel has not yet been tried and, if found guilty, faces very heavy fines, as well as many decades in the slammer. Considering that it is his defense team that's been repeatedly delaying his trial, we take that to mean they do not have a viable strategy to get their man off the hook. Harvey Weinstein. Imagine having it all and then losing it all just because you were unable to control your appetites. That is precisely what the lurid tale of Harvey Weinstein is all about. Weinstein achieved immense greatness while heading the entertainment colossus that was Miramax. But he also took advantage of his wealth and influence to engage in extremely predatory and despicable behavior. That aspect of his was an open secret that comics often use to get a few wry grins from their audience. And as to why a heavyweight movie producer is on this actors in jail list, it bears noting that some scriptwriters and producers have a habit of making cameo appearances in their movies. Stan Lee, for instance, was famous for it, and Harvey Weinstein currently has 11 movie credits to his name. Anyway, Weinstein might have slipped gently into the good night if the duo of the New York Times and the New Yorker had not collaborated to unmask him. Consequences were swift, with Weinstein being expelled from membership of almost all professional groups he was a part of, and the Queen of England asking for the return of the CBE she had given him. In March 2020, he was found guilty of some of what he had been charged with in New York and given a 23-year sentence. Josh Duggar. Ever wondered what life might be like if you had 18 siblings? Well, Josh Duggar doesn't have to wonder about stuff like that. He, along with the rest of the Duggar family, was the star of 19 Kids and Counting, with the very popular TV show being permanently torpedoed when it came out that he had been abusive to several of his sisters. In 2006, these same allegations forestalled the Duggar family's attendance on The Oprah Winfrey Show and triggered a police investigation that eventually came to naught. In 2015, magazine reports shed more light on the issue. Matters came to a head when, in April 2021, U.S. Marshals came for Josh Duggar, accusing him of possessing lewd materials involving minors. Josh Duggar initially pled not guilty, announcing that he would fight the charges as best as he could. His trial commenced in November 2021, and rather than the robust defense we had been promised, his lawyers contented themselves with filing all manner of frivolous motions. Josh Duggar was ultimately found guilty, and in May 2022 got a 12-year and 7-month sentence and was fined over $50,000. Jared Fogle. Jared Fogle is quite the cautionary tale. He went from being a nobody to somebody in almost the blink of an eye. Indiana University undergrad, Fogle set the internet afire when, in 1999, an article was published that attributed his massive weight loss to binging on Subway sandwiches. Subway signed him fast enough to set a speed record, and he was soon hard at work shooting commercials, making bank, and starring in movies. But Fogel had a very dark secret that was soon to come to light when the director of his charitable foundation was arrested in April 2015 for possession of lewd materials that involved children. This fella was considerate enough to avoid wasting the time of the authorities and speedily pled guilty to all that he was charged with, getting a 27-year jail sentence in return. The authorities beamed a searchlight on Fogel when they discovered that the director of his foundation had sent over some disturbing content for Fogel to ogle. So in July 2015, the cops swarmed Jared Fogel's Indiana home, arresting and charging him with the distribution of these materials. That same day, Subway sacked him as their spokesman at 2 times the speed they had hired him, and went to work scrubbing all mention of him from their website. Facing a 50-year sentence, Jared Fogel wisely decided that a plea bargain had the best chance of assuring his future liberty, and entered into one with the authorities. He had also agreed to pay $1.4 million in restitution. Eventually, he was given a 15-year and 8-month sentence and fined an extra $225,000. Zach Avery. Zach Avery went from actor to con man, got his grubby hands on $650 million, and was rewarded with a 20-year sentence. This guy is also far from the most skilled actor out there and seldom got lead roles. Now, from 2014 to 2019, the smooth-talking Avery convinced hundreds, including close friends and family members, that they should loan him a lot of money that would be used to get the licensing rights to movies that HBO and Netflix would distribute overseas. What he told these investors made so much sense that they eventually shelled out hundreds of millions of smackaroos. The only catch was that the business deals he was supposed to be making existed only in his head, and he was actually running a Ponzi scheme. Eventually, his investors and the authorities wised up, and he was arrested and charged with securities fraud. In February 2022, Zach Avery was given a 20-year sentence and ordered to fork out over $230 million in restitution. Will Hayden. 3 life sentences are hanging on the neck of Will Hayden, and he will never be a free man. The guy had a tough childhood. Unsurprisingly, he got into the Marines when he was old enough and spent 6 years in the service, retiring with the rank of sergeant. Will then focused on making a living with his construction and refrigeration business, though he had a small job on the side building guns for collectors. Surprisingly, though, that small job grew so quickly that he decided to go into it full-time and sell off his construction and refrigeration business. Soon enough, the new owner of Red Jacket Firearms was attracting quite a bit of local and national attention. In 2011, Discovery Channel decided to get in on the act and offered to make a TV show about him and his business. That TV show, Sons of Guns, ran from 2011 to 2014, and the business relationship between Will and the Discovery Channel only ended when he was arrested for the very disgusting things he had done. These things included inappropriately forcing himself onto a minor. He was eventually found guilty and given 2 concurrent life sentences, plus 40 years. In July 2017, he was found guilty of another similar charge and given another concurrent life sentence. Will Hayden is currently a guest of the Louisiana State Penitentiary and is very ineligible for parole, probation, or sentence suspension. Joseph Sun. Joseph Sun has had a good but very unspectacular career as an actor in B-grade movies, and his biggest role was as Oddjob in the cheeky Bond spoof that was Austin Powers' International Man of Mystery. He was actually a kickboxer and MMA fighter before he became an actor, and he failed every bout he was in. He was only able to find a modicum of success in the acting world, and that came from his being able to look threatening and mimic a fabled Bond villain. So, Joseph Sun got into big trouble with the law when, in May 2008, he pled guilty to felony vandalism charges and was sentenced to probation plus 60 days in jail. He was naive enough to violate his probation terms, and in October 2008 provided DNA samples as part of his original plea bargain. These samples connected him to a very brutal crime that had been committed on Christmas Day 1990. Put on trial with an accomplice, Sun got 7 years to life, while his friend was given 17 years. That should have been the end of the story, except that in October 2011, Joseph Sun was accused of having fatally beaten his cellmate. He was found guilty and got handed a 27-year sentence. Skylar DeLeon. Skylar here is an actor because she was an uncredited extra in the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Aged 20, she decided to join the U.S. Marines, but military life not being up to her taste, she went AWOL. She was fished out and slapped with a less than honorable discharge. Now, back in 2004, a couple were put down by some individuals and their yacht stolen. Interviewed by the cops in late 2004, Skylar claimed innocence and stated that she had legally bought the yacht from the couple. But early next year, one of her friends cracked and spilled his guts to the police. After a trial on first-degree murder charges, Skylar DeLeon's wife got 2 consecutive life sentences without parole. Another guy in the group got 2 life sentences, and a guy who testified against the group got 20 years in the slammer. DeLeon was charged with the act, with the evidence for these crimes being so overwhelming that her lawyer freely admitted her guilt and made little attempt to mount a credible defense. She was later found guilty on all 3 and sentenced. It bears noting that while born a male, Skylar DeLeon changed genders in 2019 and is now a female going by the name of Skylar Preciosa DeLeon. Joe Exotic. There are some people whose life stories could never be convincingly written because it would sound too much like a luridly sensational fiction, and Joe Exotic is firmly in the ranks of these people. Born Joseph Allen Schreibvogel and commonly known as the Tiger King, Joe is an eternally entertaining and very controversial media personality. He's also a one-time chief of police who is most known for running the Greater Wynwood Exotic Animal Park, stuffing it with exotic animals like tigers, and making a good living making tiger cubs available for folks to pet and take pictures with and of. It was this zoo and the reality TV series centered around him, plus his eccentric and trouble-seeking personality, that made him a household name from coast to coast. But in 2018, he was arrested on suspicion of having hired assassins to knock off a rival of his, with a cascade of animal abuse charges following. The next year, Joe Exotic got a 22-year sentence. After being found guilty upon appeal, his sentence was deemed too harsh, and a year was removed from it. The Tiger King has been the subject of several documentaries and remains a fella it is impossible not to feel strong emotions about. Shannon Richardson. What do actors do? Well, they kind of play act, and most are paid very well for it. But Shannon Richardson seems to have confused the play acting and make-believe world for the real one, and is still paying heavily for it. This actress is a red-headed and lanky beauty from a turbulent home who has had several turbulent marriages. She has been married thrice, and, wait for it, her biggest claim as an actress is appearing as a zombie in The Walking Dead. Amid a messy divorce, she felt an overwhelming desire to put her then-husband in trouble. She therefore wrote several threatening and ricin-laced letters addressed to former U.S. President Barack Obama and former New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg while they were in office. She then called the cops and accused her husband of the crime. The investigation that followed speedily discovered the truth of what had transpired, and Shannon Richardson was arrested. After initially claiming that her husband had forced her to mail the letters, she changed her story, agreed to a plea bargain, was given 18 years in the slammer, and fined over $350K. She is set for release in November 2028, and you better believe us when we say that what she had done and the media circus that followed got her far more fame than her supposed career as an actress. Click on this video to see 19 celebrities currently rotting in jail. See you there!